In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. The Times newspaper today has the headline, "Emerge in Style." As we await news of the so-called roadmap out of lockdown, we will all be wondering what next Monday's announcements will bring, and how our emergence from lockdown is to be combined with protecting the NHS and saving lives. Let our first prayer this Ash Wednesday be not for ourselves, but for those who have died, for those who mourn their loss, for those who are sick, and for those who selflessly care for us all. 6 weeks of abstinence, self-denial and study is probably the last thing most of us need right now. Lent begins today, but the feelings brought by lockdown after lockdown mean we are looking for release more than reflection, for contact, not distancing, and for going out, not giving up. This lockdown is wilderness enough. But remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Christians follow Lent because we know that the lockdown of death is real, but has been changed forever by Jesus' death on the cross, which we will mark on Good Friday. Through the reality of death, Jesus comes to Easter, and when all love and goodness seemed locked down forever, he rises from death, and our hope is fulfilled forever. To prepare himself for this after his glorious baptism, Jesus goes into the wilderness to prepare himself for what is to come. Alone and hungry, cold and tired, he faced the scary bits of our humanity, our sinful tendencies to take control, to put himself first, and to become selfish. Jesus resisted the temptations that face us all. And from his wilderness lockdown he emerged not in some kind of vain style, but with healing in his hands. Another name for Lent is the healing time. I invite you today, as we sign ourselves with the cross of Christ, to use the coming weeks as your healing time. We have all been through so much, and yet even in the face of so much death and sadness, still the majority of us have stayed safe and have not gone without the material things of life. If we do not use Lent as a time to emerge from lockdown and pandemic, well, then we will have given in to the temptation to put ourselves first, despite all that has happened this last year. All year, since the first lockdown began on the 23rd of March 2020, we have worried about what might happen to us. Would I catch the virus? Would I become ill? We have stayed at home because of what might happen to us from outside of us. This Lent, and as we come out of this nightmare, perhaps we should look at what is happening not to us, but in us. How are we praying? How are we giving? How are we judging others? The virus may not have come into us all, but what if we cannot ever live lives of love because of the sin within us? How are you going to emerge? Remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Turn away from sin and be faithful to Christ. How am I going to emerge? Coming out of lockdown and pandemic, we all have the challenge to come out of the wilderness into the love and light of Christ. In our dealings with others, in our giving of ourselves to God, in our witness through prayer and worship, in our sharing of the good news with others, and in our decisions about time and money, you and I have the chance to emerge into not a new norm, but into the new life of Christ, as followers of Jesus, as the Easter people. And then, when we do, we must put all our energies not into returning to the way we were, the comfortable way, but into tackling the ongoing pandemics of poverty, of racism and inequality, and of climate destruction. These are the lasting temptations of our time, and we can heal the people, and we can heal the planet. Turn away from sin and be faithful to Christ. There is nothing religious about this, but it is, as Jesus showed, faithful to the love God has shown among us. This service began with the famous hymn 40 Days and 40 Nights, sung on this day and for just a few days of the year. These past 12 months have felt like a very, very long 40 days and 40 nights, a very broad wilderness. Let us commit this Ash Wednesday to emerge from lockdown not with style, but with healing. The often overlooked final verse of the hymn says for us on this Ash Wednesday and every day, "Keep, O keep us, Saviour dear, ever constant by thy side, that with thee we may appear at the eternal Easter tide." Amen.